Hey, Motorman here. Today's February 10th. It's a Saturday, and if you subscribe to this channel, you'll know a couple of weeks ago I had a rider who quit halfway through the class. And I said that, many years, I've been doing this, like 26 years. I think I've only had one rider quit and then come back. So I said, do you think this rider is going to come back? He needs serious help. Well, today's the day. He's coming back today, and I have all my tools with me. That's right, bicycle, excellent tool. If you're afraid of leaning the motorcycle or you want to get the sensation of two wheels. And I also have a smaller motorcycle. Now this isn't a little motorcycle, it's a mid-sized bike, but it's at least 150 pounds less than the Heritage that he has. So let's see how he does. I'm going to film the entire thing. I tried him on a bicycle, but he hadn't ridden a bicycle in years, so that didn't work. So I put him on the Sportster, and I made these cones, these small cones, 16 feet apart rather than the 12 feet for a normal class. His U-turns, well, he would make them about half the time. So it was just a matter of doing it over and over again. All right. We need a lot more swing and sway. You got to turn those bars aggressively from side to side because I want that bike dipping. What's that? Even more than that. Oh yeah, because when we go to the big cones, you're going to wind up hitting them. So yeah, much more. Turn those bars, not lock to lock, nowhere near lock to lock, but you got to feel that bike dipping from side to side, and you're trying your best to keep it straight up, and we want the opposite. We want to get that bike leaning. You need to get the feel of that dip. As he got more comfortable with dipping the motorcycle, I moved him to the bigger cones, but I stretched him out from normally I have them at 15 feet apart. Here they're 20 feet apart, and he does fairly well. His U-turns, about half the time he would make it. Next, I'm going to have him move on to his own motorcycle and see how he does there. All right, now I got him back on his bike. Let's see how he does. Keep in mind what you're seeing here is just a small portion. He's already been through this cone weave probably on his own bike 7 or 8 times. As he gets into the 34-foot U-turn on his own bike, he tends to not turn his head and look over his shoulder as you should be doing. He looked straight and he went straight. As with many riders, when he gets to the U-turn space, if he doesn't turn his head and look over his left shoulder, he's not going to make it. He tended to straighten up the bike, and when you straighten up the bike, of course, goes straight. That's what happens here and happened several times. You missed that green cone by 20 feet. You were nowhere near the green cone, so you made the space much smaller. Get that front tire close to that green cone. This time, as he goes through the weave, he misses one of the cones, but watch as he gets into the U-turn. He took my advice and brought his front tire all the way over to the right to the green-tipped cone. He actually turns his head, and he's able to make, this is probably a 20-foot U-turn, actually scrape the pegs. I eventually got him down to 15-foot cones and making that U-turn, and I have it measured at 34 feet, but here he actually makes a 20-foot U-turn. So he has moments of brilliance when he actually turns his head and turns the bars and allows the motorcycle to lean. He makes it okay. We spent quite a bit of time on this one exercise and saw a 100% improvement over last time. After spending about an hour to an hour and a half on that first exercise, which in a normal class lasts for about 25-30 minutes, but with a private lesson, I've got the luxury of taking as much time as it need be for a particular rider to get through. He got through the exercise 8 out of 10 times. That's good enough to move on to exercise number 2, and here's where we find his actual real problem. And the real problem is he cannot turn to the right. He was supposed to make a right-hand turn here, and I've got this exercise stretched way out. Normally from inside cone to inside cone it's 24 feet. I've got it probably 50 or 60 feet wide now, so it should be easy. So it's simply making left turns and right turns, but any time he tries to go to the right, well, it's a disaster. He's got an extremely high fear level of leaning the motorcycle to the right. Here he sucks in the clutch, down goes the motorcycle. Circle around it. Well, most riders have a problem going to the right, or at least are not as good to the right as they are to the left. This rider told me he had a stroke about 10 years ago on his right side, so that may be part of what's going on here. But the only way to get over that fear of leaning the motorcycle to the right is to make big right-hand circles. Start with big circles. Right now he's doing somewhere around 250-foot circles around that green tip cone. Unfortunately, it just never got any better. After spending about 15 or 20 minutes with the right-hand circles and seeing no progress, I said, well, let me try going back to the exercise, but on the smaller bike. Once again here, even on the Sportster, and even though these cones are so far apart, he still had a serious problem making a right turn. I asked him what he did out on the street, if he's driving down the road and had to make a right-hand turn. He said, well, I don't have any problem there. So the next thing to do is find out if, in fact, there really was a problem there. So I took him to the intersection. That's what you're seeing here. And I said, make a right-hand turn. Well, he did make the right turn, but he went onto the wrong side of the road. If you do that on the street and a car is coming, of course, there's going to be a head-on collision. We tried this over and over again, and those right turns, you got to lean the bike to make that right-hand turn. And since he's leaning it ever so slightly, the turn is gigantic, forcing you, if there was a double yellow line in the middle of the road, he'd be actually on the complete opposite side. Once again, watch this right-hand turn. That's all this is a right-hand turn. He's not going through the entire intersection. And yeah, he'd be right on that yellow line, unable to then turn left. Almost went into the grass and the dirt. In fact, eventually that's what happens. He goes into the grass. After practicing the right-hand turns for at least a half hour, I noticed there was no improvement. In fact, his left-hand turn started getting worse. That's because he's getting fatigued and getting tired. We're about 3 hours into this. I told him the best thing to do now is to go back to the beginner course at a Harley dealer where they'll put you on a 350 or 500cc bike. And if he doesn't pass that course, well, he has to give some serious thought to maybe not riding a two-wheeler anymore. He can also get a bicycle or a much smaller motorcycle and practice on his own. And if he does that and he sees improvement, he should come back for another private lesson. That's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it helps some people that are having similar mistakes. And don't forget to subscribe, click that notification bell, and give me a thumbs up. And thanks for watching.